Hello friends, welcome back to Raju Notes channel, your weekly current affairs updates. Today we will look at the updates from 14th to 21st of May 2022. The first update, indeed a great one. The Indians men badminton team managed to defeat the 14 times winner and the 2021 champions Indonesia, which is the most decorated country in the tournament, and secured their maiden Thomas Cup title. Indian men's team defeated the Indonesia with a dominant 3-0 win in the final. And this was an incredible week for the badminton team, as the country had never reached the finals of the world's most prestigious event before. Indian men had previously reached the Thomas Cup semis only in 1952, 1955 and 1979. This is an extraordinary feat which we have probably our team has done, and there were a pour of calls from all over the country, including the Prime Minister, calling them and congratulating the team. So indeed a great moment for us and a historic Thomas Cup win for India. The second news is coming in from the field of science and technology. Here in this particular news, we are looking at an algae which has powered a microprocessor. The University of Cambridge researchers have used a kind of non-toxic algae to power a microprocessor for over a year. Just imagine, over a year. This only fuel, the only fuel rather, the algae needed was a light and water. The system contains an algae called as syncocytus. I might be spelling it wrong, but that is the algae that generates tiny electric currents by harvesting energy from the sun. This current interacts with an aluminium electrode to power the microprocessor. And the university said that since the system is made from largely recyclable materials, it can be replicated thousands of times to power a small device. It can be used at a remote locations where the conventional electricity isn't there. So this system isn't like batteries, as it is a power source in its own rights. While the battery stores the electricity, this system generates the electricity. So this is a great thing. Even the Professor Christopher Howey of the University of Cambridge, he himself was shocked. He said that he intended that the system will work for maximum 6 months, but he was surprised when he saw this power was given for more than a year. So let's see how does this change our entire system of the power storage and power usage. We will have to wait and watch as to how the world will turn into. The next news is coming in from NATO. NATO and the United States said on Sunday that they were confident that Turkey would not hold up membership of Finland and Sweden in the Western Military Alliance, as the two Nordic states took firm steps to join in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Last time we had seen that how Finland and Sweden were willing to get into NATO, and Turkey, however, had its apprehensions, and it is likely to oppose this move. And we know that to join a NATO country, all the members of the NATO countries have to accept this, while as Turkey had surprised its allies in the recent days by saying that it had reservations about these two countries, that is Finnish and Swedish membership, and its reservations was basically said on the basis that it wanted the Nordic countries to halt support for the Kurdish militant groups present on their territory and lift bans on some of the sales of arms to Turkey. So basically Turkey is also trying to gain some advantage out of this entire fiasco which is happening, and probably we also know that Turkey has been put under the FATF grey list along with Pakistan. So yeah, it is a problematic thing for it, so it is trying to wriggle out from this entire setup. Last time we saw how India had suddenly banned the wheat export to the other countries, and thereafter the group of 7, that is G7 countries, had criticized India over its decision to ban the wheat exports. So that is okay, but surprisingly, the China on Sunday came to India's defense, saying that blaming developing countries like India won't solve the global food crisis. And we know that last week India amended the export policy of wheat, putting its export under the prohibited category. The Ministry of Commerce ordered stated that the government has banned the wheat exports with immediate effect. Now, although India is the second largest wheat producer in the world, it accounts only for a small part of the global wheat exports. By contrast, some developed economies, including the US, Canada, European Union, and the Australia, are amongst the major exporters of wheat. However, once like I was anticipating that this is a great move by India of banning the export of wheat, because now the world has slowly started realizing that India is also growing as terms as the food security of the world is concerned. Though India has assured that India will never hoard the resources for itself, and if the time need be, it will certainly export to the other countries. Biden had reversed the Trump's administration's decision of withdrawal of troops from Somalia. Last time, if you recollect, we had discussed that any kind of war is only to further their own political gains and political setup. So probably this is one of the example. As if now the Russia-Ukraine war is not enough and the entire NATO is involving in it. Thereafter, here in Taiwan, the China-Taiwan standoff, the visit of US President to Quad summit. Amidst all this, the US official said that President Biden has approved the redeployment of US troops in Somalia. This is actually reversing a decision by his predecessor, Donald Trump. The deployment was requested by the Pentagon to support the fight against militant group Al-Shabaab. And that time, President Trump withdrew about 700 US troops from Somalia in 2020. The move to re-establish a military presence in the East African country comes as a long overdue elections delivered a new president. Hassan Sheikh Mohammed, a former peace activist, promised to work closely with the international partners as he took office on the Monday. We also know that Somalia has suffered from decades of chronic insecurity, and the Islamist militants who once controlled the country still hold a large swathes of it and continues to collect taxes in places. So whatever be the reason, US is now pushing its troops into Somalia because even if the US is a fully developed country, it has to sustain its political goals back at home. Good news for basically the majority of the Indian citizens. This is again related to United States of America. A President Advisory Commission has unanimously voted to recommend Joe Biden's process of all applications of green cards or the permanent resident cards within 6 months. So those who are stuck up for their green cards, now all this will be done within 6 months. As of now, the green card holders are allowed to live and work permanently in the United States. The recommendations of the President's Advisors Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders will be sent to Joe Biden for his approval. Once cleared, it could bring a cheers to hundreds of thousands of Indian Americans waiting for years and some even decades to get their permanent residency in US. The proposal was put forward by an eminent Indian American community leader, Ajay Jain Bhutoria, during the meeting of the above session in Washington, D.C. All its 25 commissioners unanimously approved this proposal. So very good news, and anyone who's on the verge of kind of giving it up, please hold on. I think now this is a time that you will get your visas. We had recently seen about three episodes back, a Chinese plane had crashed and killing 132 officials. And now, after its data has been recovered, the black box has been recovered. Now it is said that the Chinese Eastern Airline plane that crashed, killing 132 people, is believed to have been caused by an intentional act. Not a malfunction, but an intentional act, according to a US official who spoke to the ABC News. The Boeing 737-800 passenger jet was flying from Kunming to Guangzhou on March 21st when it plunged into the mountain areas of Guangxi, China, wherein all the 123 passengers and the 9 crew members had died. Now, how did they jump to this conclusion? In addition to the black box, which was the data which was recovered, they had noted that the plane's flap had not been engaged, neither did the landing gear were put on, and the near vertical descent of the plane is just not possible because of its aerodynamic shape, and this could only be possible if it was done with intentions. So what are the bigger intentions of this? Is it a terrorist attack? Is it a hijack which China is covering up? We really don't know. Maybe something will certainly come out of it very soon. With the India's growing presence in the world arena, under the new powers of, rather I must say, faced with the mounting pressures to help the desperate parents. Please pardon me on that. Sorry, I got it mixed up. This is the US is planning military aid package for India to reduce its dependence on Russia. And as the US is presently preparing a military aid package for India to deepen security ties and reduce the country's dependence on Russian weapons. People familiar with this matter said that the package under consideration would include the foreign military financing as much as about $500 million, and which would make India one of the greatest recipients of such a aid behind Israel and Egypt. It's really unclear when the deal would be announced or what weapons would be included. The effort is part of a much larger initiative by President Joe Biden's administration to quote India as a long-term security partner, despite its reluctance to criticize Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. And this somehow has been told by an official who did not want it to be named. And Washington wants to be seen as a reliable partner for India across the board, and the administration is working with the other nations, including France, to make sure Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has the equipment it needs. While India is already diversifying its military platforms away from Russia, the US wants to make help that happen faster and plug in the gaps. Well, if you see, this is all wooing India to be at US side, and somehow I have a very strong feeling that I think US will lose its so-called developed country status maybe very soon. The way it is going, dependent on everything on every other country. Like why I'm saying so is the next news, which will certainly make you think on this. Faced with mounting pressures to help the desperate parents, President Joe Biden on Wednesday invoked the power of the Wartime Defense Production Act to get more of the precious products into American homes. Under the new power, the federal government can use commercial aircrafts or air cargo planes owned by the Defense Department to transport infant formula from the countries abroad and fly it into United States. Basically, it is baby food what he's talking of. So America will now use their military planes to get baby food, baby powder to US. So that is a state when for such a thing it has to use its entire military aid, military powers. So if that is the condition, look at the position of India. We might be talking of inflation which is happening around as of this time, but please look at that, how comfortable we are. India is manufacturing everything. US is superpower because it has got the power to buy. But if we start putting ban, or if any country starts putting ban, then even the money will not suffice. So, well, this is a thing which I was trying to get in constantly. There is nothing that India is now not doing. I think we should help this process of India becoming a developed country and contribute in whatever way we can, instead of just criticizing it for small things. Even if you see, the US economy is also going down. It has rather plummeted as never before, like in its history. So good news for India. Last episode, I had discussed about how the government has passed in instructions to the VPN providers. Now, the virtual private network that or the VPN service providers that are not ready to comply with this new guidelines have the only option to exit from India, as per the Minister of State for Electronics and IT, Mr. Rajiv Chandrasekhar. The minister, while releasing the frequently asked questions on the recent directive on reporting of the cyber breach incident, said that every well-meaning company or the entity understands that a safe and a trusted internet is going to help it. And the Ministry of Electronics and the IT has mandated cloud service providers, VPN firms, data centers, companies, and virtual private server providers to store users' data for at least 5 years. And the US-based technology body ITA has having globe tech firms such as Google, Facebook, IBM, and Cisco as its member have sought a revision in India's government's directive on reporting of cyber security breach incidents. So the companies, the so-called high-flying companies, are also feeling the heat of this particular thing. So once the Indian market is down, so a big dent in their own revenue system. So even such countries are now requesting the countries like India to sort kind of a revision in their directive. A good thing for us. I think these are the ways which a country should take in for growth. Excellent thing again, once again, for the country. Union IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav made the country's first 5G call at the IIT Madras campus earlier this week. The call was placed over a trial network that was set up using telecom equipment that has been completely designed and made in India. This achievement was one of the biggest moments for the country's first 5G testbed and the development of indigenous 5G technology. India has been one of the largest markets for 4G connectivity. However, rolling out 5G calling and 5G internet has been rather challenging, mainly because of the security issues. Countries like USA, UK have already have 5G calling services in several areas and even providing 5G internet in select places. So now it will be a race in the world as to which country will provide this services, this facilities, this kind of an equipment, what can deal with it. So India has to be in that race. So this is a great thing, and I think the IIT needs a good round of applause. India responding to a satellite image showing China building a bridge on Pangong Lake has said that the second bridge being constructed by China on the Pangong Lake is an area that has been under illegal occupation of the country since 1960. So the External Affairs Minister spokesperson Arindam Bakshi said that India has never accepted such illegal occupation of the Indian territory, and we have seen reports of this bridge being constructed by the China on the Pangong Lake, and these both are under illegal occupation as per him. So the point is taken, but as of now, they have not given out what will be the reaction to this particular build-up of the bridge on Pangong Lake. But recently, when Rajnath Singh was addressing the paramilitary forces, he mine said that mine and yours chest will swell with pride if you know what happened in Galwan. I am sorry I cannot reveal all what had happened, but just suffices to know that what I have read and what I have heard and what I have seen is that in the Indian Army had made you proud when it got tackled. It was tackling the event at Galwan. So when a defense minister says that something like this he cannot reveal, but he is proud of the fact what was done there. So I am sure India is being looked after on the defense aspects also by the Indian Army and other armed forces. Good news again, post-pandemic of COVID-19, the jet airways will be able to take on to skies again after aviation regulation DGCA Friday granted it a revalidated air operational certificate, also called as the AOC, allowing the airline to resume its commercial flight operations. The In its old avatar, the airline was owned by Naresh Goyal and was operated its last flight in April 2019 due to financial distress. And now presently the Jalan Kalro Consortium is looking after the Jet Airways. And the Jet Airways had recently conducted its test trials, and the DGCA was shown the result, and now after the approval the airline intends to restart the commercial flights operation in the July to September quarter. Well, more number of players coming into this sector, the better it is for the consumers and lower are the prices. And coming on to our last news, this is the coming from the BRICS thing. The new development bank, which is formerly known as BRICS Development Bank, BRICS, BRICS Development Bank, has decided to set up its Indian Regional Office (IRO) in Gujarat, International Finance Tech City, also called as GIFT City. The office will focus on the focus on the project origination, pipeline development, project implementation, and monitoring, as well as a regional portfolio management. The Indian Regional Office will be instrumental in enhancing NDB's engagement with the borrowers and the stakeholders. IRO expands our on the ground presence, contributing to preparing and implementing of the project as per the NDB's director. Since its inception, the NDB has built a robust and a diversified portfolio of infrastructure and sustainable development projects. The IRO aims at catering to infrastructure and development needs, especially in India and Bangladesh. The bank is in its final stages of preparation for the physical opening of the office. So one more thing coming in, a world presence, some kind of an organization, the BRICS organization's presence now in India, a good news for all. Well, that's all, friends, for this week's update. I will see you soon next Sunday at the same time.